Hey folks, I'm Dr. Gray Addison. I'm here today to demonstrate to you how to develop a slider in Articulate 360 to reveal hidden layers on your slides. This is a great way to create interactivity with your courses and to improve your completion and retention rates. Let's get started. Okay. We're here in Articulate 360. I've opened up this little sample project we're going to be working from today, and I'm just going to drill down into this slide so you can see it a little better. And this is a project I worked on the other day for eLearning Heroes Challenge number 322. And what I created here was a little picture collage that's told a story, and when you clicked on each one of these here, we'll look at it in the preview mode. And this is a click interaction slide, so when you click on it, it reveals some information. Okay, and that does that for each one of these little pictures I click on. All right, so we're actually going to be changing it from this click interaction into the slider interaction today. And so to begin, first thing I'm going to do is duplicate the slide over here. That way I've always got the original slide if I decide I don't like what I do. And then we can keep on going from there. So we're on the one we're going to change now. We're going to eliminate some of the elements. We no longer need these directions, so we're just going to delete on this. Okay, and you know, each one of these that I clicked on before has a trigger. So over here we're also going to come over and select all those triggers and delete all of those. And then I'd like to point out that down here I have all of those layers developed, and these are the layers that I was showing when I clicked on those triggers before. Okay, so again, this element here that closes the trigger is no longer needed, so we're going to eliminate these triggers on each one of these layers just to keep ourselves from getting confused later on, and help kind of keep the project kind of clean. Okay, so we've got all of those cleaned up. And now we're starting with blank. We got no triggers whatsoever, and it's time to insert our slider. So we're going to come up to insert here, and we're going to grab a slider, and I'm just going to grab this one today, and we're going to put it down here in the bottom, about like that. All right, we're going to look up here at our formatter, and we're going to change our thumb slider to this little blue. I think it matches our blue, and we're going to select this little gray thing. We could customize that further, but that's a little beyond the scope of today's little video, so let's not worry about that too much. And one final thing is I will align it horizontally, keep it nice and clean. Okay, so one thing I want to point out real quick is that when we created this slider, if we come over here and look at the Manage Project Variables, we see that the slider 1 was created here, and so let's just go ahead and rename that for our projects. We're gonna say massage benefits slider. Okay. And we're going to hit OK. And so now we're clear about that this is the slider that we're using on our base layer. Okay. All right. So if I just preview this real quick, we can see that the slider does work, and it's a little jerky and choppy. But it is actually working. It's just not changing anything, and that's because we haven't actually programmed it to change anything yet. We just created that slider. Okay. So first thing that I'm going to do is draw your attention to. I have 5 layers I'm working with here. We got the base layer, and then we've got 4 additional layers that we want to reveal using this slider. So first thing I'm going to do is click on the slider, and then come up here to the Design tab. And right here, we're going to set how many steps we have in our slider. And I always like, it's just a personal preference, I always like starting on 1 instead of starting on 0. So I click that one and I change it to 1, and I change this one down to 5 because that's how many different layers we've got. We got the base layer plus the 4 we want to reveal. And our initial step is going to remain at 1. And for now, I am going to leave it at steps of 1. We're going to go work from there. Okay, next we're going to assign some triggers to the slider, and that's these are the triggers that are actually going to reveal these layers as we go up and down the slider. So what these triggers are going to do, first we click on the trigger wizard. These triggers are going to show a layer, and on this first one we're going to go in order. So it's going to be, first one is heart layer. When the slider moves, which slider? Slider 1. And if the value is not in between 1 and 5 but equal to, and our first step on the slider is going to be a 2. Okay, so here we go. Now that I've developed this one, I can copy it and I can paste it 3 more times. Okay, and each one's going to show a different layer. So we're going to show layer, not the heart layer, but the second one is the headache layer. And when the slider 1 is equal to a value of 3. And then we're going to show the exercise layer as the third layer when the slider 1 is equal to a value of 4. And then the final one is show a family connection layer when the slider 1 is a value of 5. Okay, good. Now we've got the triggers that should fire when our slider actually moves. So let's take a quick preview of it, and we're going to show you step by step how it changes. Okay, so first we grab it and then we move it, and we see that our layers are changing, but something's wrong here. We all of a sudden we no longer see our slider, and if I let go of it ever the first time, I can't grab it again. So we know there's something else going on. We got a little more programming to do. Okay, so the problem with that is that when I created these layers, there's not actually a slider on it. And when we change to the layers, it hides that original made slider. So what we're going to do is come to the slider on the base layer. We're going to Control C, and then we're going to go and paste this to each one of our layers. Now I want you to notice something, that as I paste these onto the layers, it additionally copies and pastes the triggers. We don't actually need these triggers on the actual layers. Okay, so we're going to come in here and we're going to eliminate that did not what I wanted to do. We're going to eliminate the triggers themselves, not the slider, but the triggers. And that's just going to help to keep our project clean and keep us from getting confused, keep the program from getting confused. So, okay, now we see that on the base layer we still have our triggers, but on all the other layers it's nice and clean. Okay, and I'm going to show you again a preview. Once we do this, it's still not correct. I know it's not correct, but I want to show you. So we come in and we still see that it's changing our layers, but it's still not working correctly, and it won't work correctly consistently. So the reason it's no longer working correctly is we've not assigned each of these sliders. Okay, each layer has a slider now. When we copied and pasted it, it created these new variables. So when you go up here to this box and when you click on your variable project box, you can see that I've created 4 new variables for the project. And really, we don't want these variables. It just creates them automatically. All right. We want to be using the massage benefit slider variable the entire time. Okay. So if I try to click on it now and I hit delete, it's going to give you this. Cannot delete it because it's being used by the layer. All right, well, that's solvable, no problem. Let's go in here. let's dig down. Okay, and when I have the slider highlighted here, and I come up here to the design tab up at the top, we can look in our top left, and this whole video is about this interaction. So this is a big point. Take note, this variable is assigned to massage benefits slider. This is our base layer. That is the slider we want to be using the whole project. But if we go to our next layer, the heart layer, and we click on our slider and we click on design, we can now see that it is assigned that slider 1 variable. And this is what we've got to adjust to make that slider work correctly for us. We want to click on the drop-down menu box and assign it the massage benefits slider. And we want to do that for each one of our the layers that we want. We got to click on the slider, click on design, come over here to the top left and assign it to that massage benefits slider. Now there may be an easier way to do this, and I'm very happy for someone to comment on me and let me know, help teach me what another way to do it. But this is what I ran into the other day, and this is how I resolved the problem. Okay, so now when we preview our project, we can see when we grab our slider that it appears to be working pretty much correctly. All right, we're almost there. Now, one thing I will make note of here is it's not going back to the base layer, right? It's not going back. When I go all the way back, it's not going back to my base layer, and that's a problem. We want it to be able to start and stop in the same place, so we're going to fix that. So we'll close out on my preview screen. First, I want it's a personal preference. I like keeping everything clean and organized, so I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to delete all these extra slider variables. Okay, and that's just to make sure that the program doesn't get confused. All right. Alright, so now I clicked back down on my base layer, and we have to assign one final trigger here to make it go back to its base layer. Okay, so when we're on a value of 2, we're on the second step of the slider. It's showing the heart layer. Well, I want to hide that layer now. I want to hide that layer. Which layer? I want to hide the heart layer when the slider moves. Which slider? Slider 1, and not if it's between the value of 1, but if it is equal to a value of 1. That's where our slider starts. So if my slider is sitting on 1, I want it to hide that heart layer. Click on. Now let's take a look at our preview slide. And we grab our slider, and we seem to be working correctly now, except we're missing a headache layer. Ooh. Okay, but it is going back, you see, to the base layer. All right, so let's take a look at our triggers. Oh, we got 2 triggers set to a value of 3. Okay, so I know my exercise layer should be set to a value of 4. So now that correction, and we can preview again real quick just to show that correction. Grab it, and we're showing all of our layers nice and clean now. And we go back to the base layer correctly. Okay, so I want to show one more little tip to make it a little cleaner. As we drag this slider through the steps, it's real just kind of jerky and jumpy, jumps from place to place to place, and I don't really like that. I like a cleaner, smooth feel on my slider. So let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. We do that by clicking on the slider, click on our slider, we come up here to design. And instead of moving in a one-step process, we're going to adjust this variable down to 0.01. Okay, and what that does is assigns 100 or 99 steps between the value of 1 and the value of 2. Okay, so now if we preview, we can see that the slider is moving nice and smooth. Okay, but notice once I get to 2, it goes back to the jerky motion. And okay, so we know there's still something else we got to do. Well, remember we have a slider on each one of our layers. Okay, so we have to come back to each slider and we adjust that variable down to be 0.01 on each layer. And this is something that as you work with articulate, you'll get a little bit quicker at doing. You would originally I would have assigned this before I copied it, so that when I copied it and pasted it, it's actually the 0.01 to start, and that'll just help to speed up your process as you go. But I wanted to show everybody today the process of cleaning up that connection and making that slider smooth instead of jerky like that. So now we can see nice smooth connections, and got a little bit of a delay. You notice as I slide here, it doesn't exactly do just perfect. Okay, and that's because we've got all those steps in between. All right, so we're going to do one final step today. Instead of we're going to adjust our triggers here, okay? And so instead of a value equaling a particular number, now that we've created so many more steps on the line, we've got a total of 500 now. We need to show this layer when it is between a value, okay? And so the first step is going to be between 1 and 2. And then the second, the headache layer, is going to be between 2 and 3. And then the third layer is going to be between 3 and 4. And then the final is between 4 and 5. So now we've got those numbers assigned. And we can preview our slider one final time. And we should have a nice smooth slider interaction that shows our base layer when we get back down. I hope you liked what you saw today. And if you did, go ahead and click on the like button just below. Again, I'm Dr. Gray Addison, and you can find me at these links above. Until next time.